So let's cap off today's show with some news from the Algorand ecosystem. German tokenization platform Midas launches MT Bill on Algorand. Do they got the touch? The joke was not funny. But courtesy of the Algorand Foundation, Midas RWA, a fully regulated German tokenization platform, has launched the MT Bill token on Algorand. It's the first non-EVM launch for the token. MT Bill is a tokenized certificate referencing short-term U.S. Treasury ETFs available to retail investors across Europe. They won't even let me look at the website. That's how serious they are about that. Can't wait for the day where us in the U.S. are able to move in on products like this. But I'm going to finish this out because as I was looking into this, I came across a story that added pretty interesting perspective to this. The redemption value is based on the liquidation proceeds of a reference basket composed of ETFs such as BlackRock's IB01 and Build. However, unlike the Build Fund, which requires a minimum investment of $5 million, MT Bill is structured to allow broader access to short duration U.S. Treasury exposure. No minimum investment required. So I truly like that aspect. And it kind of brings everything full circle because when I was looking into this, I stumbled across a story where the short of it is this. The reason why U.S. investors, we typically can't get access to this is because of the wide variety of financial products that we already have access to. It plays a large role. In places like Europe, the UK, India, Australia, there's another one, they don't have the same access to the financial tools that we have access to. Yet again, another example of how DLT blockchain networks like Algorand are helping put products out there that have real world value, that allow people to do something that they did not have the ability to do before. You guys probably know by now, thanks to the Algorand Masterclass, ALGO has a very special spot in my portfolio. It really does. It really does. Let's keep digging into this, guys, because in the form that this is going to take shape in, it's going to be called Liquid Yield Token. Now, I read the documentation for Midas explaining these liquid yield tokens, and I also discovered too, his name is, I have it here, Dennis Dinkelmeyer, guy who created Midas, used to work for Goldman. That one, Goldman Sachs. So that was pretty interesting. It's not often that you come across a protocol with such backing. Like I said, I've explored so many different assets. I've seen the best setups and the worst setups. Trust me. So seeing that, names like Goldman, and as you can see here, high quality financial partners like BlackRock, this is a good play for the Algorand ecosystem. But the point I was getting to about the documentation and how these liquid yield tokens work, they essentially operate not as a stable dollar type asset, but the value of the token is based on the performance of the underlying ETF. So they mentioned in that press release that they mentioned BlackRock's Build Fund, right? So the yield token that will be available on Algorand will be backed by the performance of the Build Fund. So as the Build Fund continues to progress, the value of these yield tokens will increase in value. Now, of course, as it stands, us here in the US, we can't, tap into this. So I didn't get a chance to take a look at what the interface is like, but I can imagine soon we'll start seeing numbers pop up on RWA.xyz right there next to EXOD, which is the tokenized version of Exodus stock that also runs on the Algorand blockchain. Now, this is definitely a win for the Algorand network. And developments like this really show you just how early we are, because this story was an example of a builder creating something on blockchain that gives access to a group of people. This is still the early stage things that blockchain can do. Providing a secondary ledger of account that people who previously didn't have access to the information that was on this ledger, they can now see it. They can benefit from it. That's what we saw in the collaboration with Midas and Algorand. Now, the year for Algorand, okay, granted, it ain't been pretty. Now, however, if you would have gotten in September of last year under 18 cents, it would have came out okay. It would have came out pretty well. But with Algorand and other assets like it, I always fall back on this particular idea. Principle, if you want to call it that. The people behind the scenes, the builders, regardless of the price action, they still build it. They will still build. And when I took that Algorand masterclass, that was reinforced concretely to me. Solid now. So that really changes my perspective. I'm looking at this price chart, and yeah, a moon boy would be like, this is terrible. But this reminds me of early Amazon. Just remember how long that took. I don't know about you guys, but I'm willing to sit here for the long haul. So with that, guys, like I said, great news for the Algorand ecosystem. And if you want to get deeper into the Algorand network, you got to check out your new financial system master sheet. As you can see here, we have a list of organizations that are closely tied to the Algorand network. If you want to dig deeper into your research, these are the perfect places to start. And then, of course, Algorand is listed in the top 100 utility-driven blockchain networks. And Blockmaster, this is your fundamental piece of information. So that way, when you do see and explore these relationships and partnerships that Algorand has and other networks like Stellar, XDC, you know about the core components thanks to Blockmaster. And then, of course, Robinhood, as well as Uphold, guys, extra ways to support the channel. Links to these will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment. With that, that's the show for today. Again, enjoy your weekend, guys. We're going to try to do this 3 times a week. Monday is going to be our next show. We're going to see what unfolds over the weekend. We're actually getting a lot of positive news across the board. So, I'm geeked. With that, my name is Wade, and y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.